Welcome. This is the December 22nd, 2021 meeting of the Village of Mamaroneck Planning Board. We have, besides approval of some minutes, we have 3 applications that are nearing the end of our process with them, and 1 application that's brand new and is just at the beginning of a process that probably will last at least more than this 1 meeting. Okay, we'll start with the minutes. We have before us a draft of minutes from our last meeting, which was December 8th. There is 1 typo. I have 1 typo I found, and then there's an addition I would like to make. 1 change and 1 addition. On the first page, Brittany, are you take notes on this, right? To give to, or she looks at the tape. Okay.
Yeah,
to give to Barbara. Okay, so Barbara. Oh, wait, first I have to do attendance. I'm sorry. And I have to welcome our new planning board member, Seamus O'Rourke, who comes to us from HCCM. So welcome aboard. So Seamus is here. And then the other planning board are here, Richard Littman, Ellen Styler, Cindy Goldstein, Ashley Lai, our consultant, our planners here, Brittany, of course, our land use secretary, Frank Tavolacci, our building inspector, Teresa Backner, our land use attorney, and John Keller and Susan Oakley, our consulting engineer and our consulting landscape architect, respectively. Okay. Okay, so back to the minutes. On the bottom of the first page, when we approved the minutes from the meeting on November 10th, this is just a copy, a cut and paste error. The motion has the wrong date on it. It should be November 10th and not October 27th. I'm on page 4. Does anybody have anything before them? On page 4, the first full line where it talks about Mr. Spatz and Ms. Wilson making comments, I would like to remove the qualifying very brief comments. I didn't even want to keep the word brief, but let's keep the word brief and we'll take out very brief. And then in the discussion that follows on that same page, there's towards the bottom of the page, there's a paragraph that says there was a brief discussion regarding chop making deliveries to the school. I want to add to that let's see, members of the planning board requested that the applicant reach out to the high school to explore the possibility of delivering food to the high school grounds so students wouldn't have to cross the post road, and the applicant agreed to do the same. And Barbara, if you're listening to this, if you want that language, I'll forward the email to you. Just let me know. Anybody else have any other comments or changes to these minutes? Can I have a motion then to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, let's see, where is it? Glenn?
yes,
Richard?
Yes.
Cindy?
Yes.
Seamus, you weren't here, so.
I'll abstain unless it's a procedural problem.
No, it's not. Good. You watch the tape, which I've learned that you could vote if you watch the tape, because I had to do that once. Okay, and I vote yes. So that's an abstention from Mr. O'Rourke. Okay, thank you. Okay, our next item on the agenda is the Wetlands Permit application for 4 Shore Road. And we have a draft resolution before us for our review. I don't know if anyone has any comments or any questions. I don't know if anyone from the applicant is present, but I think this one was pretty straightforward. So
I only had one question. It's the 4th paragraph under the now therefore be it resolved. It 4A talks about conditions imposed by HCCMC. I didn't think they had any conditions.
you're muted, Teresa.
let's just say if any. Okay,
Okay. Yeah, because I recall they didn't, but we only saw the draft resolution. We didn't see the final.
the
So,
final one. Yeah.
okay. Okay. That's all I had.
I asked the same question when I saw the draft the other day.
Oh,
And we likened it to belts and suspenders. All right, do I have a motion to approve the resolution as amended?
so moved.
Second,
Yeah, I'll second it.
okay, okay. Cindy,
Yes.
Ellen,
Yes.
Richard,
Yes,
Seamus,
This one I'm very familiar with from HCZM, so yes.
okay, and I vote yes. Okay. Okay, next item on the agenda is a draft resolution before us for approving the site plan for the renovations and exterior improvements at the McDonald's restaurant at 1205 West Boston Post Road. I misspoke when I wrote an email earlier yesterday with regards to the address here. I just did east. I always confuse those things. Okay, so I think I have one change we have to make on this, as I learned that an applicant can volunteer to donate funds to the Village of Mamaroneck, but they have to accept that donation.
And so I would put, the applicant has agreed to offer to donate.
Yes, that's resolve number 6. We cannot compel them to donate. They can offer to donate and then the village has to accept it. So we clarify that.
So it's a two-part process. They're going to offer, the village may or may not accept it under what creation. I don't understand why they wouldn't accept it, but that's the process. So is that what?
Correct. That's the legal process.
Okay.
So we had to make sure, right? I realized this yesterday.
you learn something every day.
The village manager's office, and that's the legal process, right?
Yeah, and I think after trees, we have to add of, hang on a second. No, I would forget this. 2 inch to 2.5 inches in diameter at breast height.
They don't come under the tree law. They're just donating trees. So
Okay, all right, then we don't
they don't
need
have any
to.
restrictions on the tree. I mean, obviously, we'll donate some funds and the village will select the trees.
No problem. Okay.
So I'm sorry. I had a question about condition number 1. The last part of the sentence talks about any dead or non-thriving trees shall be replaced over the life of the project. That's more than just the construction and development of the project. That's in perpetuity.
Yeah, they've got to keep them alive and in good shape. Yes, throughout.
Forever.
Yes.
Okay. And that's clear enough language that they understand that.
I believe so, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Anybody else have anything else? All right, I need a motion to approve the resolution as amended.
So moved.
Anybody second?
Second,
I'll second.
Okay, call the roll. Richard,
yes,
Cindy,
Yes.
Ellen,
Yes.
Seamus,
Abstain.
and I vote yes. Okay.
Who seconded that motion? Was it Richard? or-
Yeah,
it Ellen?
Richard did it first. Yeah.
Okay, all right, just checking.
It was close, but Richard. All right. And that brings us to the third application, which is a site plan application for a new chopped restaurant at 1043 West Boston Post Road, across from the high school. As anybody who's been watching these meetings know, we had several concerns with regards to the pedestrian safety of the kids who cross over at lunchtime, which I don't know, is anyone here from Chopped? I think we have, I think the board wants to ask them some follow-up questions before we vote on this. So Brittany, if you could.
Yep.
We don't need everybody. Whoever can speak with regards to the traffic and the pedestrian safety.
Good evening, Chair and members of the Planning Board. Andrew Spatz here with our team.
Andrew?
I want to, I got to start the meeting with two things. One, Chair and members of the Planning Board, I should have been staring at the Sea of Cortez right now, but because 2021 has such a sick sense of humor, I'm here in the village of Mamaroneck, joining my colleague, Ms. Wilson, and the CHOP team to hopefully bring this project home. The second point is, I want to welcome Mr. O'Rourke as well. And I think that the Flood Mitigation Advisory Committee should start getting like some commissions on all these elevations of staff and talent, because we're like the SEC of football. Like, we prepare these individuals to go out and become mayors and trustees and other members of planning. I'm telling you, I think we need to start getting some royalties from flood mitigation. But in any event, welcome.
We'll pay you 10% of what we get paid.
That big fat zero, yes. But the glory of it. Anyway, without further ado, I have the CHOP team here this evening. Everyone's familiar with the application. I'm glad, Chair, that you made reference to the contact that the applicant was going to make to the school regarding students avoiding having to cross the street during lunchtime period. I know Justin Gold will be able to address that momentarily. We also have Brian Dempsey, who did provide a memo December 16th that hopefully was circulated amongst the planning board for review, specifically addressing the left turn. And we also have the additional landscaping plan that reflects, I believe, one additional tree we were able to get in there, and also the offer that we had as well to donate funds to the municipality, hoping that the village will accept that offer to donate funds towards the trees. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Justin. Oh, please add Terry Grant to panel. I'm seeing a little note at the bottom, Terry Grant.
Okay.
AJ Grant. Okay, great. So without further ado, Justin, are you ready to address that issue?
Ready to go here. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. As discussed in our last meeting and brought up earlier tonight, I was able to connect with Sylvia Wallach, the Assistant Superintendent for Finance, Facilities, and Operations at the high school. And we had a very good and productive conversation regarding Chopped. First, they're thrilled that we're coming to the community and can't wait to have a healthier option for lunch. So I'm glad to share that. To the meat of the conversation, we talked about Chopped delivering to the school. And they are very open to that conversation, but they're not quite sure how to work out the logistics. As you may or may not know, there are 1,600 kids that break for lunch at the exact same time. So it's a challenge to manage that. If you know the layout of the high school, there's a security desk and no one but staff or students is allowed to pass that threshold. So we have to find a way to work together to have a delivery point that worked for both the staff, security, and students. Maybe it's the parking lot, maybe it's the front hallway, but they're certainly open to that conversation. I will add that Chopped is also committed to continuing this dialogue with the school and working through those details. Believe me, we would love to have a direct access into the school across the street. And we would also like to say that Chopped delivers in bulk to businesses across our state every day of the week. So we do this day in and day out for businesses up and down the East Coast. and it would not be out of the normal course of operation to figure out a way to do this with the high school. So that was the crux of the conversation. Again, we commit to figuring out those logistics.
Okay, that was great. Very good. Also, to follow up from our last meeting, I did reach out to the acting chairperson of the Village of Mamaroneck Traffic Commission. They did have a meeting scheduled between our two meetings, but it was too late to get this on their agenda. So it's on their January meeting agenda. They have the pedestrian safety study and the responses from AKRF and the State Department of Transportation. We've offered to have someone from the planning board attend their meeting to fill them in on background if they feel they need it. And hopefully, if they also need it, someone from your team can also Zoom in to their meeting and work with them. They understand the issue with regards, I think they understand the issue, or at least the person I spoke to, I think understands the issue with regards to the safety of the students who cross the street in the middle of the block and not at the crosswalk, and what the issues are that were raised in the Department of Transportation's response memo. So that is also underway as well.
Yeah, please let us know. We would be happy to join that dialogue and respond to any questions they have from the business.
Okay. I think their meeting is the third Thursday. Does that make sense? I think last week was the third week, and so it was a Thursday. So I think their meeting is the third Thursday of the month.
Okay.
Maybe Andrew or someone from your staff can just check their posted agenda, when it comes up. But I spoke to, they don't really have a chair. They have an acting chair who thinks he maybe wants to be the chair, but it's not sure. So I spoke to him and sent him the documents, and he was going to send them to the rest of the members of the commission. And so I think you're in good shape. We're in good shape there with having, they would be the group that would then make a recommendation to the Board of Trustees if they wanted a code change to put some signage up or anything like that.
Chair, we commit, and I know I've been working with this team for almost a year and a half. I've gotten grayer from it, but that's okay. But they will absolutely work in concert and collectively with the municipality. I have utmost confidence they will.
Yeah, okay. All right. Does any member of the planning board have any additional questions? Those, the pedestrian safety and the trees were the biggest issues that we had kind of hanging out there. Anybody have any other issues or questions? No? Teresa, based on what you just heard, do we need to make any amendments to the draft resolution?
No, I don't believe so. It's just a commitment to work going forward, so.
Right.
Well, I actually had a few comments on the draft resolution. On page 2, the next to the last whereas clause, the DOT meeting was on November 9th, not the 11th.
Okay, thank you.
And then in the conditions section, number 6, the applicant will need to continue to work with the New York State Department of Transportation. Well, actually, I'll ask you, Mr. Spatz. It's my understanding that DOT has not signed off on this because there were problems with your application. It wasn't complete, right? You don't have a final sign off of from DOT?
Brian?
Right. This is Brian Dempsey. I talked to DOT again yesterday about it. The way the application works, you submit the first part, they review everything, and then we submit the second and third parts.
Okay. And
it wasn't like it wasn't complete. That's their process.
Okay, well, I saw their letter, so it said there was missing, and whatever, it doesn't matter. We knew as a planning board that it would be very likely that you wouldn't have completed the DOT process by the time we completed our process. So that's right. I think we were thinking.
We want to insert the word the applicant will need to continue as opposed to.
That's absolutely no problem.
How about must?
We can just say the applicant shall continue to work with the New York State Department of Transportation and the Village of Mamaroneck's Traffic Commission to ensure
I would also add the Mamaroneck Union Free School District there.
Sure, we can do that.
All right, get the exact name of it. It's the Mamaroneck Union.
Union Free School District.
Got it? All right.
I'd also like to add towards the end of that, it talks about to obtain necessary highway work permits for the project. I mean, I'd love to see a written report back to the planning board of what those results are. I'm not surprised the school was happy to hear about Chopped. I think we were all anticipating it's going to be a big success with the students and the staff at the high school. And we certainly hope that's the case. But I think we need to just follow this through a little bit further.
Just to clarify, so it would be whatever written report that's prepared by the DOT or from the municipality or globally. I just want to make sure that we know what the expectations are for the report.
Well, personally, I'd like to see whatever everybody comes up with, because it sounds like a negotiation process. And obviously DOT has the final say on everything. It's their road, so we have to do what we need to do there. But I'd like to see what the traffic commission, what the village, the school district, what is the entire plan?
What's the final outcome?
And who's doing what?
Right, so that would be a report that the applicant team could put together from all the different sources as here's what the final outcome was. Here's what happened. Yeah.
Yeah, we copy the village and AKRF on everything back and forth.
Okay, good.
Okay, so if we could put that in there that, the planning board will get a report when all this is done, when everybody's signed off. And so do we need, Teresa, I'll ask you, do we need any specific reference to the fact that the DOT final report is still outstanding?
Well, let me read 6 again, since it's changed quite a bit, okay? The applicant shall continue to work with the New York State Department of Transportation, the Mamaroneck Union Free School District, and the Village of Mamaroneck's traffic. Is it a commission or committee, Kathy? Commission, okay. To ensure the roads and walkways are safe and compliant with the American with Disabilities Act, to obtain the necessary highway work permits from NYSDOT for the project, and to submit a final report back and for the applicant to submit a final report back to the planning board.
Are we so narrow as to only be considering ADA?
It says safe and compliant, so safe.
Okay.
Safe, right, safe covers the.
If I could just interject, obviously, if the applicant being Chopped is required or requested to do something proactive, obviously they will. But they may, for example, there was a flashing light or some type of safety device that we're not permitted to install, but the village could. Obviously, that wouldn't fall on us, that would fall upon the municipality. So I just want to make sure that if it applies to us or within our range of permissibility, then we'll do it.
We know you can only do so much. We understand that.
That's why we had.
I'm going to be out there. No, Cindy, I'm going to be out there directing
traffic every lunch hour. Yes.
It came with my retainer, Cindy.
Looks like a new condition on the resolution to me.
Okay, is that it, everyone? Okay. And I think we changed since this got changed today, the trees is that they're going to make the offer to the village. We couldn't compel them to do it. So, okay. Okay, so then I need a motion to approve this resolution as amended.
So moved.
And
I will second it.
we got this thing going.
Why break up the rhythm?
Yeah, why break up the team? Okay, Cindy,
Yes.
Richard,
Yes.
Ellen,
Yes.
Seamus.
Abstain.
I hate to go to you last, but I knew you were going to abstain. And I vote yes. Okay, guys.
Chair, members of the planning board. It's been a long time. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Really appreciate it.
And have a
And,
happy holiday and Merry Christmas and
Likewise, thank you all.
Team, great job. And again, Chair, members of the planning board, wishing everybody and staff a happy holiday, healthy holiday. We'll see you in 2022.
yes, well,
Take care. Thank you.
you won't be back to us. Okay. Okay,
everybody.
let's get the chop people out of here. And
Stage left, stage left.
exit stage left. Let's move on. Okay, the next and last item on our agenda is a new application for the site plan application for a private home at 1010 Orient Avenue. Now, we've received a few comments on this already, urging us not to approve anything tonight. So let me just explain a little bit what the process is. We're not going to approve anything tonight. This is the first application, the first time that we are actually seeing this application and discussing this application. Tonight, we will type it for SECRA. We will discuss information with the applicant. Do we have a representative of the applicant? We will not be taking public comment tonight. We will be scheduling a public hearing on this, and all public comments will be taken during the official legal public hearing. So if you're here to make a public comment, I'm going to ask you to come off of the panel. I think that DeGrant's, hi, it's nice to see you, but I think you're here for public comment, and that will be at the next time we meet with them. We still have to get some more information from the applicant before we can even move forward with this application. They didn't submit everything required for a site plan. But so who we need up here now is representatives of the applicant. Okay, thank you. And this will continue this dialogue between us and the applicant, and then members of the public. When we get to that point, we'll continue until we're satisfied that all the questions, we have all the information we need in order to make a decision. So this will go on for a while. So don't worry, there's no decision going to be made tonight, or probably even at the next meeting as we open the public hearing for the first time. So that's what we're going to do tonight. Okay. So there we go. There we have an applicant. Okay, so at this point in time, the applicant can present the project to the planning board and to the public. So you need to unmute yourself, introduce yourself.
Thank you.
And after the presentation by the applicant, AKRF can comment. Ashley's here. John Kellard from Kellard Session, our landscape architect, Terabella, Susan Oakley is here. And then the members of the planning board can weigh in where we are right now. And like I said, we will type it for secret purposes, and then we will schedule a public hearing. Okay.
Hi, so I'm Diane Eaton from Keller Eaton Architects, and I'm here representing my clients, Klaus and Cecile Ekstrom. Just a point of procedure, should I share my screen for the presentation?
Sure.
Okay.
Brittany will have to give you the rights.
Just so we can, let me know when you're ready.
It should allow you.
I'm still getting the error message that you disabled the screening, the screen sharing.
Let me check one more time.
Okay, we have another person who's the engineer for this project who wants to come on.
That's correct. That's Justin from Langen.
Okay.
I'm getting a that you have. Let's see. Here we go. That should be working now. And I'll get Justin on.
Great. Should I wait till Justin gets here?
You can start. He can hear us.
Okay, very good.
Got a little larger though, so we can see it. We don't need all the thumbnails on the side and things like that.
Sure.
Just want to see. Yeah.
Is that better? It kind of cuts off on my screen a bit.
Okay.
Great. So I'm the architect for the project. And my clients, as I was saying, Klaus and Cecile Ekstrom, purchased the property at 1010 Orienta Avenue. And we are proposing a single-family residence, a 2-story residence with a 1-story cabana. The house itself complies with all the Village of Mamaroneck zoning requirements in terms of setbacks, height, floor area ratio, lot coverage. The property itself also came with certain covenants, which I did include in our submission. The first one is that all structures have to be 50 foot off the right side property line. We need the front to be a minimum of 35 feet off Orienta Avenue. And there's a lovely stone wall with piers along the front on Orienta Avenue, and we could not touch those or disturb those. So with those kind of parameters, it kind of dictated the layout, basically, at least a portion of the layout of the overall house. So we, ultimately kept the stone piers where the curb cut was and entered into this side of the house, which kind of pushed the garage over on this side of the house, with the rest of the residence spilling out after. We have a bluestone terrace in the rear, and the cabana is well situated in the back, kind of centrally located in the property. Our front setback is 50 feet. We feel over 50 feet. It's actually, my apologies, it's closer to 60 feet, because we really wanted to have kind of a gracious, front yard, as well as, maximizing the area in the rear yard. It's a very large piece of property. So the driveway, as I said, goes in on the left side here. We do have an area for some guest parking. There's no parking on Orienta Avenue, so we felt that was important to have a place for people to safely park, on the property. I think I'm just going to keep going through the plans. So we have Justin from Langen here if we have more specific questions. This next sheet is just an area map. I highlighted here is our property that we purchased in question. Here is the proposed layout of the building with cabana. And just to give a sense of where the other houses are situated along Orienta, we are much further back than most of the homes along Orienta Avenue, just to give a visual. We felt that was important given the property. Moving into some of Langdon's drawings, which I'm just going to give a brief overview, and any specific questions can be directed towards Justin. This just talks about some demolition work and grading that would need to happen. I'm just going to go down to the next page. We ultimately have, just going to keep going. This is for amenities and layout. This next one is a little more to the point about just how we're going to capture any of our hardscape and roof leaders, et cetera. We have 2 underground infiltration systems, a smaller one towards the front, which picks up the driveway surface water, and in the back where we start picking up the roof leaders. I'm just going to kind of, again, just keep going through the process here of these drawings. Just a little bit more information there and contours. More site details about those infiltration systems. A lot of engineering. The next page is their landscape layout per the site plan, which just talks about, kind of a borderline of arborvitaes, some privet hedges, some decorative trees. It kind of has a whole gamut of, landscaping, I think, appropriate for this property and area. Foundation plantings around the house. And again, some decorative, beautiful trees, crepe myrtles, Japanese spruces, spruces and some Japanese cedars scattered about. Then I'm just going to go into the and more landscaping details. The overall layout of the house, I'm just going to scoot up. There is a finished basement beneath the first floor. which has a multiple, media room, kind of typical for this, area, media room, gym, guest bedrooms, etc. On the first floor, as I said, we have the garage on the left side here. Nice entry foyer, leading to a family room, and just kind of, not an uncommon layout of, almost a colonial, where you have kind of, dining room, living room, kitchen, great room, kind of a very common layout. On the second floor, all the bedrooms with a balcony overlooking into some of the first floor spaces. And then I'll just get to the elevations, which is, cedar shingles with cedar shingle roofing. I think, again, also very, common vernacular in Orienta. That's the front elevation. A little portico up front. Go into the right side elevation. Rear elevation, again, just keeping with the shingle. Breakfast room bay here, covered porch over the rear terrace, which is along the back. And there's the garage elevation. And that brings us to the Cabana elevation, which is the one-story house, in the rear of the property. They were very, interested in keeping the pool and the cabana kind of more central. Everyone likes to make sure the pool is, completely guarded and screened, etc. Just so neighbors, don't object to any kind of noise and along those lines. I think that's all I have for you today. That's just a survey and some photographs of that wall, that we were keeping, lovely wall, and just some of the neighbor properties. This is the house to the left. This is kind of the side view of the house to the right, and just some neighbors across the street. Love to take any questions.
Maybe the engineer wants to give a little bit of, Brittany, could you disable the comments, please? I'm sorry, Gail. We're not at the level of detail, that level of detail at this point in time. We'll get there.
Okay, I'm gonna just scroll back to the.
Yeah, if Justin from the engineer, the civil engineer, can do a little bit about the stormwater management system.
Sure. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
All right, let me try to.
Justin, do you have a last name?
Yes, my last name is McAlintal from Langen Engineering. Thank you, everyone, for allowing us to present today, this evening. Just to provide a little bit more detail on the stormwater management for this project. Like Diane mentioned, we're proposing 2 underground infiltration systems, one in the front and one in the rear. Most of the impervious surfaces from the property will be focused on the underground chambers in the back. We did perform field testing on the site to verify that the infiltration rates and depth to bedrock and existing groundwater do comply with DEC requirements. On this project, both of them do. We have the required depths, and the infiltration rate exceeds the minimum ½ inch per hour. And just from generally speaking, from a peak flow rate, our post-development conditions meet the existing peak flows. So we're not generating any more surface runoff that'll be leaving the site than what's currently existing.
So in other words, you're not going to increase any runoff from the site than what's currently there?
Correct. That's currently, we're not proposing, we're not going to be generating any increase in surface runoff. That's the purpose of the underground.
We've gotten some written comments from the neighbors that since the property was the vegetation on the property was removed, there's been an increase in runoff from the site onto their properties. So that it's one of the concerns with regards to this project.
If I could just clarify one point, that my client purchased the property as is, as it currently stands today.
So they were not the people that cut down?
That is correct.
Okay.
So I think that's an important part, you know, in case there is some questions along those lines, we really couldn't answer that, because this is how, as you see it, that is how my client purchased the property.
Okay, well, I think we heard rumors to that effect, that they weren't the owners at the time who cut down all the trees. But they have to address the fact that all the trees were cut down, even though they're not the ones who did it. Okay, just so you know.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if you look at the village code and what the requirements are for a site plan and what the consideration are for a site plan, obviously the ecological considerations and the landscaping and the size of the lot and the number of trees that can go on that lot are going to be clearly one of the issues that we're going to raise.
I see.
Well as the stormwater runoff, along with other things, how the house fits in and how the property fits in with the neighborhood. That's all part of the site plan review.
Sure.
Okay. 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 So if you're done with your presentation, we're going to turn it over and just have our consultants make their comments. They've made some preliminary comments. I think they've been shared with you, the applicant. But
I have not received those comments.
okay.
Would those have been emailed?
Can you can unshare your screen so we can
Sure.
seeing other people on it, and okay. I mean,
Well, I guess regardless of whether or not you received the
right, we
comment,
don't, right.
you will receive them.
Yeah.
And
That's great.
I mean, it doesn't really matter one way or the other whether you got them or not.
No.
I just thought as the consultant's comments came in, they were being shared with the applicant, but that's okay. We'll get them to you. But let's start with AKRF. I don't know if you have any thing that you want to say, you know, in the beginning, as we begin our review, things that you want to point out or things you want to bring to the attention of the planning board members and the public.
Sure. So this is, as the chair said, this is the first time that this applicant is before the planning board. The only recommended action for tonight is to type the action under seeker. Because this is a single family home, it qualifies as a type 2 action. So that's the recommended classification for tonight. However, there are a number of comments from the village engineer as well as the village's landscape architect that need to be addressed before this can get to final approval. Given the concerns that we've seen from the public so far, I am recommending that the planning board schedule a formal public hearing. It is optional for the planning board to schedule a public hearing on a project of this size, but given the interest, I am recommending that one be scheduled. The comments that were outlined in my memo were related to the compliance of the project with Chapter 300 of the Village Code, which summarizes all of the necessary features that need to be included on your plans for a pool. So I will make sure that you get a copy of that. Many of the items have already been addressed, but there are a couple items that need clarification. For example, whether or not you're proposing any lighting around the pool or in the rear yard, we would need to see a lighting plan for that.
Can I ask you, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. Could I ask one clarifying question? Because we were planning on applying for the pool under a separate permit. So would that go with that separate application, or because that was our intention, that the pool would be under a separate permit and not under the same permit?
So it could be under a separate building permit, but you're better off getting approval from the planning board for everything all at one time. Otherwise, you're going to have to come back. And especially for the SWIP items, it would be better to have everything all under one SWIP.
Okay. All right. Thank you for clarifying.
And it also along with the lighting plan, if you're planning on putting any sound system in, you know, especially in-ground sound system or around the pool as well, to note and how that would be mitigated, because since the sound is transmitted through the ground and that's something the neighbors, you might want to look at Chapter 300 of the zoning code as well as the other chapters of the zoning code that apply, because that's the chapter on swimming pools.
For sure. And we, as I said, as we were thinking this was going to be under a separate permit, so we didn't really address those at all.
This is a site plan review. You're an application for a site plan review, and we're looking at the whole site. So
Sure.
think of it as everything.
Okay,
It's easier that way.
I understand.
That way we don't have to, don't have to come back and forth. Plus we get a picture of the whole thing and look at it,
Sure.
the gestalt,
Okay.
so to speak. Okay, thank you, Ashley. Where's John? Where's our consulting engineer? I know you have a lot of comments, and there's also a memo from John that we'll make sure that gets to you as well.
Okay.
Good evening. Probably the major comments within my memo address the stormwater issues. First, the disturbance on the site appear to be over 1 acre. I believe the property is 45,000 square feet in size, and it shows that the complete property will be disturbed. That would require a stormwater pollution prevention plan be prepared that addresses erosion and sediment controls, water quality, and water quantity. It would have to address the quantity issues right up through the 100-year storm event. And because it's over 1 acre of disturbance, you would need to obtain coverage through the New York State Speedy's general permit. You would need to file a notice of intent to comply with the state stormwater regulations and file an MS4 SWIFT acceptance form. I did not see calculations or a formal SWIFT document with your submission. But we would need computations to show that the quantity and quality calculations comply with Chapter 4 of the New York State stormwater regulations. The proposal, as you mentioned, has 2 Coltech systems, one in the front of the property, one in the rear. The soils on the property are clay, according to the information provided on the plans. And there was an extremely slow percolation rate. So I'm assuming these systems will be quite large in size. The systems, there's no existing stormwater systems in the roadway or adjacent to the property. Therefore, all discharge from the property is over land. I'm assuming you mentioned you'll have discharge from these systems. The concern would be that these discharges are concentrated locations. So we really need to know how much discharge will be coming out of these systems. And we obviously would want to disperse the flows so that it's not a concentrated flow that would cause erosion or any damage to adjacent properties. I noticed the larger system is located in the rear of the property, and it's taking all the water from the house and the pool deck and the pool house. But if you look back, and the existing topography on the site is not exactly how the topography used to be on the property. To, I guess, the old structure being removed, regraded. If you look at the Westchester County GIS mapping, they do have topography, which is your historic topography of the site. And I believe the high point is towards the rear of the property. And very little water was actually flowing towards the rear. So most of the water from the site was flowing towards Orienta Avenue. Therefore, now you're proposing an infiltration system in the rear, and you're sending the majority of the water from the site, everything but the driveway itself and the front lawn, which is going to Orienta. All the rest of the water on the site is being directed towards the rear, which was not the case in the past. So we want to make sure that we're not redirecting water that's going to harm adjacent properties. I commented on the field inlet. It appears that the terraces were being collected by the field inlet in the rear lawn. We just need more clarity on the grading. And if that's not the intent, then we would need drainage on the terraces themselves to collect that water and bring it to the treatment areas. We need clarification on the infiltration testing, that it was actually conducted in conformance with the methodology of Appendix D of the New York City Stormwater Manual. And I provided in the memo a number of notes addressing the that have to be put on the plan addressing the stormwater issues. Contractor certification statements required, maintenance agreements are required. We're also going to need a cut and fill analysis of the property. It's not clear if you're going to be importing fill to the site or exporting it. In either case, you would have to comply with the local, state, and federal regulations on fill. There is a trench drain, which is a good feature. You're picking up the water on the driveway in a trench drain and bringing it over to the infiltration system. We'll need a detail of the trench drain, and we'll need a sump shown on that trench drain. There's nowhere on the site plan that I see where the footing drains would be discharging. So we would need the location of the footing drains and the inverts. We would need this sewer and water connections between, I assume, the house and the pool house in the rear. And in the front of the property, it appears that your sewer connection is going to be in excess of 10 feet deep. And where it comes out of the house, it's very close to the drain inlet in the driveway. You may want to try to build in a little more separation between the two. And you will require a street opening permit to make your water, sewer, and gas connections. The village website, under the village engineer section, there are standard details. You would need details for pipe trench and pavement restoration in the village right of way. Sewer lateral saddle connections, the granite curb replacement detail, as well as replacement detail on the concrete sidewalk. And my last point was the existing sidewalk in front of the property appears to be damaged, and severely damaged in several locations. You should point out where that damage is and what repairs are going to be made to the sidewalk.
This is all documented in a memo dated December 17th from John that you'll get a copy of.
Thank you.
And if you have any questions, you can certainly direct them to John and begin a conversation back and forth with colored sessions.
That would be great. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for the comments.
Welcome.
And then we also have a memo dated the 18th of December from our landscape consultant, which obviously is an issue of concern for the planning board and for the community, because as you pointed out, the property was, when the house, I guess, was demolished, the property, all the trees were cut down on the property as well. So this is the beginning of a conversation with regards to how to restore some of that plant material and some of the tree canopy. And so Susan Oakley is from Terabella Land Design. Susan, I don't know if you want to say anything at this point in time.
Just to reiterate what has already been said, the property is devoid of any plant material except 2 street trees, which would need to be protected. There needs to be a tree protection plan. A tree preservation plan, which it's required, but there's nothing to protect.
Well, only if they're planning on taking some trees down. And since the trees already came down before the enaction of the tree law, I think a lot of people assume that this property was the reason why the tree law finally got passed, because of what happened.
Right, right. Well, it was,
There really is there are no trees there to preserve.
well, it was unclear to me based on the existing temporary fencing. It's unclear to know exactly where the property line and are there perimeter trees that exist? I think we need to see on the existing conditions plan. Is there anything there or is there zero plant material there? So that's one question.
Right.
So, and also the tree protection aspect of it. The proposed plant material is, as you mentioned, lacking. In addition to the landscape plan that they did include, there's far too many non-native plants on the landscape plan, and that really needs to be revisited given the proximity to Long Island Sound. So not only to foliate the property as much as possible, but be very selective and purposeful in what kind of plants are chosen.
Okay, I think that Susan sums up the planning board's concerns on that particular issue. But do any members of the planning board want to weigh in at this point in time, request additional materials that you feel are lacking, in addition to what was already requested by our consultants?
Yeah, I think the consultants did a really thorough job. I did have a few other comments or concerns. So I always like to see on the survey the topo lines extended beyond the particular property, so we can really see, especially because we have concerns in that area for neighbors getting flooded and Orienta Avenue getting flooded. I really, for me to understand how the water moves, it helps me to have topo lines extended. So if we could get that done. I think there's normally a calculation of impervious surface. And I guess we're going from no impervious surface to whatever number of feet for the house, the cabana, the pool, the driveway. So that's a calculation that we need. I would recommend on page 1 of the short environmental assessment form that item 3, it's incorrect to say only 5,000 square feet of the property is being disturbed. I think Mr. Keller mentioned it's 100% of the property that is being disturbed, not just having structures put on it, but equipment and stockpiling of dirt or whatever. So just, that needs to be changed. And also want to point out, I think Susan does a great job with the landscaping commentary, but I would like to really make clear from my point of view, because I lived on a street next door to that site. I was in the previous house. I know what that site looked like. It was wooded. Even though there was a house there, it was heavily wooded. And I think that we're looking for trees, not shrubs, not arborvitaes. We're looking for trees, and tree preservation plan or not, there's nothing left to preserve, but that's really the focus of our landscaping commentary. And then the final thing, I did review the September 28th tree committee meeting, and there was a lot of conversation about this. I understand the applicant purchased the property as is, but there was conversation at that, and I think and I hope that the village is going to follow up, because it's a distinct code violation with serious implications for anyone who clears vegetation or performs earthwork in violation of section 342-75, which is talking about removing a quantity of trees or shrubs, shall be guilty of an offense punishable by fine not to exceed $250 for each square yard of property cleared, or by imprisonment of not more than 15 days. And I know that the applicant didn't clear the property, but somebody did. And there were assurances the village manager would speak to the village attorney to find out what can be done about this, because this, to me, was an egregious violation of our code to have done all that work and then sell the property to somebody else and get away scot-free. They violated the law. It's very clear, very simple. Even without a tree law, they violated the law. And it's irritating, to say the least.
Okay, before I weigh in, any other member of the planning board want to comment? I think that Ms. Goldstein's hit some of the high points. As members of the community, I think we all, when we heard about the property being completely denuded, we were upset by it, because it's just not something that we do here, or it should be done here. But I know you didn't do it, so nobody's pointing fingers here. We just have to fix it. We're looking for, as Cindy mentioned, we're looking for trees, but we're looking for trees that are going to grow and restore some of the canopy over time, and not non-native trees. We're looking at trees that are going to sustain the wildlife that exists in this area. And it's close to the sound, and it's East Coast Flyway. There's migrating birds coming through, constantly, a couple times a year, and birds that live here, and food sources for those birds. And unfortunately, mature trees are more productive than the cultivars that are available in the market nowadays. And that's going to have to be addressed. That's a huge piece of property. 21 trees is not going to cut it. It's just not going to cut it.
I really appreciate all these comments. And I do know that the Ekstroms are, they have young children. They're looking to settle down, and live and be a part of this community here. So I am certain they are going to want this to look appropriate, and all that,
Right. Hopefully they can, over time, right some of the, wrongs and the problems in the future. I, for one, would like to get a sense of how this property fits with the neighbors, not just the topo lines, but, and there are photographs, but like, what would the house look like? Like if the property with the house there, how does it fit in with the houses around it? I don't get that sense from the material that's already been. I mean, I see photographs of like, okay, there's a photograph of the property with nothing there. And I don't know, Photoshop, it's easy now for just, doing some renderings and whatnot.
Not as easy as you think, but yeah.
Yeah, I've taken 2 classes on Photoshop, and I still, I can't do much, but I
understand what you're asking, though.
Yeah, if you look at what the site plan criteria are, which is in, the code, section 342-76, that's what we do. That's what we look at. One of the things is the relation of the structures to the environment and the relation of the structures to the neighborhood. And there is no environment there now, except for the contours of the land. So that's unfortunately, everything else has been removed. If there has been some regrading, and if you all know what was done before you purchased a property, that would be someone good. I hope no fill or anything like that has been brought in prior to this application. But
I'm not aware of that.
We certainly echo Mr. Keller's comments with regards to we need to know about cut and fill and things like that. So I think that covers some of the questions I had. Anybody else want to jump in?
I have a comment. It was the last sentence of my landscape review, that the applicant should be committed to planting the largest growing trees that a given planting location can support. And that would be of utmost importance on this site also.
Something to look into.
We look forward to getting your comments.
Right.
One comment from me, and I won't refocus anything that I think all the various people have raised, which are good points, but I think there's potentially a seam here, which is the intersection between maybe John Keller, your work on stormwater and engineering, and the trees, the roots, and the what the prior canopy and environmental situation would have added to that. So It's just something I'm thinking about. I'll comment for now, but that I wanted to put out as a comment for now. But just maybe melding those two things from a flood mitigation, holding stormwater type of perspective.
Yes, the analysis for stormwater should look at the existing condition, not what it is today, but what it was
Right,
with the trees.
right.
And John, just to add to that, I understand, existing conditions to based on the prior coverage. Would proposed conditions be analyzed with the assumption that the canopy meets, the landscaping requirements as well? Because that'll, definitely improve the surface runoff mitigation as well as the amount of underground chambers that will be required if we can assume that portions of the site would be considered wooded instead of open grass area.
Well, I think if you're converting portions of the site back to woods, then obviously you could consider that.
Okay.
But that, you don't have a lot of area on the site to convert back to woods.
Right.
And I think your biggest hurdle here is the poor soil conditions. It's you mentioned it was clay, you mentioned it was extremely slow, and we have no place to discharge the water. There's no existing drainage system around the site. So I believe your infiltration systems are going to get significantly larger than what was shown on the plan, but we won't know that until we see your calculations, which we haven't seen yet.
And yes, we did perform infiltration tests. They did meet the 1/2 inch per hour, but we will run the analysis and, demonstrate that we are meeting pre-development drainage conditions.
I just also want to point out that one thing that was different is that, if I recall, the house that was there previously was way in the back, which isn't really, amenable really to somebody having, some privacy in their backyard, et cetera. So the nature of this lot is going to be different, just based on the fact of where our house is situated, so I not any more than just to point that out, that the house is going to be a different location. So I think that we can achieve, getting a good density, and making it feel like it fits in. And certainly in no way do we want any runoff or any issue. I mean, Lord knows Mamaroneck has had their issues. That's not at all what we're interested in. Moving it forward, that idea of the wooded area is going to be slightly different, but I'm sure we can attain, something that would be, pleasing to everybody. I'm sure we will.
There's a big movement away from lawns because they provide absolutely nothing to the environment. Then things are detrimental. So a wide expansive lawn in the front, 60-foot back, you probably, you need to rethink that. There's going to have to be some trees there. You're going to have to replace a lot of the canopy, along the perimeter of the property, on the sides and the back, if you can, with soil conditions, have to rethink it. Okay, anybody else? We have to type for secret tonight, and I don't know if we're able to set a date for a public hearing. We might want to wait until you can get some more information back to us. You might need some more time to do that, but if there's no other comments or anything now, we can do the secret vote, and then we can talk about when we might want to schedule a public hearing.
Kathy, just a brief thought. In my ancient history, when I used to do this in the city, we had to make sure we had a complete application before we started the clock ticking. And without, I'm trying to remain objective and not veer off center here. But I'm not ready to start the clock on this. There's too much information missing. And I don't think we have a complete application. So I'm not in any rush to type this. I know the law says that a one-family house is a type 2, but I'm not ready to start the clock on this project yet.
I don't think a clock starts. Teresa, if we type it as a type 2, there is no secret clock. right?
There's
Yeah.
no secret.
No,
There-
I understand that. It's a figure.
Right, I understand. I agree with you. My first reaction when I saw this was this is not a complete application.
Can I ask just for a little clarification on that? It's because the SWIP, is that the, or,
The
I'm
SWIP,
just not sure what specific things were missing. I just wanted to clarify that.
the SWIP is the biggest thing. You know, and again, if you look at 348 -78 required submissions for a site plan, and there's a whole long list of things that should be included in a site plan.
I think it's also important that you're going to come forward with the pool aspect of this as well. And
Right.
so we need more information relative to that. And Richard, there's certainly no problem in waiting to the next meeting to do the typing and decide if it's complete enough to call for a public hearing. You should have all the information before you call for the public hearing.
My thoughts precisely, Teresa. Thank you.
I agree. Right.
I'd actually like to ask, so the pool and cabana, I know we've discussed with the applicant that it should all be one application, but if taken separately, wouldn't these be two type 2 actions, which would equal an unlisted action?
No, it's a single family house with accessory structures, including sheds, pools, playgrounds, you name it, is a type 2 action.
Okay, but yeah, I'd also like to wait because this is, you know, I like the idea of getting applicants in early in front of the planning board to understand what we're looking for and you know, start the dialogue and hear about the application, but there really is so little here to work with, especially with major issues like stormwater. I agree with Richard and Kathy that because we're not sending them to zoning or HCZMC, yes, BAR is on that list. I don't know the timing of that, but this isn't going to hold anything up.
Right, I agree.
And the SWIP is a one-page form, but it's really the data that you're looking for.
No.
With the secret, I'm sorry, you were saying.
So some of the SWIPs we've gotten have been documents that are this thick.
If I don't see a 90-page document, I don't think it's a complete SWIP. I mean, there's boilerplate language in there, but it's a significant document with significant testing
Right.
and everything in one place.
And all the
Cindy,
calculations, right, you can go online to any one of our previous applications and just look at a SWIP.
We've actually prepared a SWIP, and it is 206 pages.
Yeah, there you go.
Not sure if it made it to the planning board. It doesn't sound like it, but we do have one ready here, but it does not take into account some of the comments that you've made prior to the existing vegetation, all those things. So obviously, we'll have to make modifications, but we are aware of the document and we'll be providing it for you.
All
when
right,
ready.
so if we're not going to type and we're not going to set a public hearing, the ball then is in the applicant's court to get us.
We should just move to table the application until the information is submitted.
Right, that's where I was going. Right.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's why we have to
So
make
just
sure
to-
that we get right.
Just for timing consideration, once the applicant does submit the revised application with the additional information, it'll have to be on a planning board meeting to be able to schedule the public hearing.
Right.
That will be for a date that's about a month out to make sure that the applicant and the village have enough time to notice for that public hearing. So I just wanted to bring that up for consideration. So if we had an idea of the timing of when this application would be submitted, we could potentially schedule a meeting out in the future, like maybe in February for the public hearing, unless you wanted to just wait till you actually got the materials.
I would defer to Justin because it's the engineer is the one who's performing, this work.
Do you have a separate landscape architect working with you, or it's being?
It's
done?
also through Langen. So Langen Engineers is handling everything.
Yeah, we'll wait till we receive the comment letters and make sure we provide a common response addressing all the concerns that was raised tonight, and resubmit with a full package. So we're not revisiting, some of the concerns that have been brought up today.
Okay, so just, just be aware, as Ashley pointed out, there is a schedule, documents for a planning board meeting have to be in, a certain amount of time in advance, give us time to review it. And when and we won't be able to schedule a public hearing until after the next meeting. And then there has to be public notice being given of the public hearing, has to go into the newspaper.
Can I just clarify that? I'm sorry. So if we were on the next planning board hearing,
The next
that's
meeting, we wouldn't be able to have a public hearing then.
right.
And
So we need one more hearing without the public, and then it gets.
You
referred
would,
to the
you would
public
need
hearing?
one more meeting without the public just to set the public hearing for a
Right.
month out from that day.
Right. Okay.
Okay,
And I mean, we do meet twice a month and there aren't any.
yes.
Or anything
That's-
coming up, so we try to go as fast as we can, but there are schedules about
Looking,
documents have to be in so that gives us plenty of time and everyone to review it and getting comments and whatnot and posting them on the website. And the public hearings, which is different from what we're doing here, which is a public meeting, has to be noticed as a public hearing and noticed in the newspaper so the public has an opportunity to see the notice of the public hearing.
And then at that public hearing, is that when the vote happens, or is there another hearing?
It depends on what happens, but more likely than not, the public will have an opportunity to speak and give us their comments. And then we have to weigh those comments in addition to everything else that we've heard.
Right. I
So
understand.
this isn't something that's going to happen in February, or the decision in February, or maybe even March. Just to give you an example,
I think February 9th might be the earliest date.
it might be the earliest, but if you
For
saw
the public hearing.
the applications that were here before you, the three that we voted on tonight, McDonald's had a public hearing, although they had no comments, but they had to go to other boards, and that's not a good example.
Right, it's always a little different. I'm sorry. That's why I just like to double check, so you can.
Top's initial application to us came in July. Okay, but they were waiting at zoning board for some
Right.
variances and things like that. So, but just so you know.
And so you would need one more meeting after the public hearing to get the final approval. Is that?
Most
Yes.
likely.
Most
At least.
likely.
At least one more.
At
meeting.
least.
Right.
I
And it depends on what comes up at the
Well,
public
depends on
hearing and
what-
whether what
Yeah.
is submitted is complete.
Right, it depends on what comes back, what you get back, we get back from you.
I understand.
Then after discussion, you need time to prepare a resolution.
Yeah, that, kind of happens, but yeah, it happens rather quickly. Teresa bangs them out. She's great at that.
Well, we look forward to getting all your comments, so I'm sure you have my
Yeah,
email
we look
address.
forward to, we look forward
Thank
to, seeing your plans and, addressing the concerns of the community. Some of what we've said tonight, echoing some of the comments we've already received from the public, even though we didn't have a public hearing, we did get some written comments today, and I know there are people watching the Zoom meeting who are very concerned about this property and what happens on it. So,
We're very interested and motivated in starting. The sooner we start, the sooner things get landed. So,
okay, all right.
thanks for your time.
All right, thank you. I think that's it for the agenda. Does anybody have any other comments for tonight, other than to wish everybody a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, joyous New Year. We snuck this meeting in before Christmas. Usually it gets canceled if it's close to Christmas Eve. Okay, now then I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Wait. Did you table it? You need to do a motion.
You actually need to table it? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so we need a motion to table the application for 1010 Orient Avenue until we receive more information. Is that correct?
Yep, that's right.
So
We've
moved.
never done this before, Teresa. So yeah.
All right.
Right. Okay, do I need to have a motion to table this application?
So moved.
And a second?
Yes, second.
Okay, Seamus,
Yes.
Richard,
Yes.
Ellen,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Okay, now I need a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
And
Second.
okay. I'm gonna go to Seamus first because he was last on all the other ones.
I won't abstain on this one. Yep. Yeah.
Ellen,
Yes.
Richard,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
and I vote yes. All right, good night, everybody. Stay safe and have a
Thank you.
Happy
Good
holidays.
night, everyone.